Southern belle, Boyd would not have viewed herself as a government operative. In any case, she was basic to a large number of the South's triumphs during the U.S. Civil War. She assembled data about Union powers through incognito methods and gave it to the Confederacy. It was 1861, and the war was simply starting. At that point, Boyd was an inhabitant of Martinsburg, Virginia. She was anxious to join the endeavors of the South against the North, so she engaged with the Confederacy's raising money endeavors. Nonetheless, publish more. At the point when Union troopers in 1861, she saw her chance. Boyd exploited her status and conversational capacity to turn out to be near a portion of the Union fighters. Secretively, she accumulated as much data as possible while keeping up her apparently guiltless persona. She would then hand off this data to Confederate officials, regardless of whether it implied sneaking through adversary lines, to reveal to General Stonewall Jackson about the Resistance's arrangement to consume the town's bridges. However, recon isn't all that Belle was renowned for. At some point, during the Union control of Martinsburg, a Union warrior endeavored to raise a banner over the home of Boyd and her mom. After Boyd denied the men admittance to her home, one rambunctious warrior endeavored to constrain his way into the home. He didn't make it exceptionally far. Beauty pulled out a weapon and shot the man dead. Quite bad to the bone, isn't that, sir? Melita Norwood was sweet and apparently harmless. A secretary at the British Non-Ferret Research Association, otherwise known as the BNF, during the 1930s, she was answerable for things. For example, coordinating arrangements and dealing with records. Nothing too serious, wondering where the covert operative part comes in. Here it is. The BNF was really a cover association for the Tube Alloys venture, Britain's atomic weapons program. Despite the fact that she lived in Britain, Norwood was a Russian on a fundamental level relating to the communist belief systems of the Soviet government. This thoughtful disposition ultimately got her engaged with the KGB. Whenever they allowed her a chance to get them out, she accepted. Acting under the code name Ola, Norwood was coordinated to stay the BNF offices in the wake of shutting and clandestinely eliminate records from the safes. She would then duplicate these documents and offer them to KGB overseers at her home, obscure to her better half. Quite a bit of this technology, too, following the revelation of her secret activities endeavors years after the fact. Norwood was approached to uncover the characters of her Russian accessories. She cannot, guaranteeing cognitive decline as the explanation that she was unable to review any of their names. Christine Granville was a belle of the ball-turned-spy. Preceding her inclusion in World War II, she was a model. Toward the beginning of the war, Granville turned into a courier in Nazi-involved nations in Europe. Her employment was to bring messages through Poland, conveying them to different Allied powers without detection. This ended up being a perilous obligation. Granville got popular for protecting fighters from execution, getting away from gunfire, dropping sewing blades into the fixes of her skirts, creating elaborate stories to escape difficult situations, and enchanting watchmen and gatekeeper canines the same. One story recounts how she away from Nazi police powers by keeping quiet and imagining she was biting the dust of tuberculosis. Granville likewise utilized her magnificence as a resource, beguiling different sweethearts all through her extensive vocation in undercover work. She immediately found the eyes of Winston Churchill, who might later make her an individual from his own reconnaissance unit under the code name Willing, and allude to Granville's hot and energizing personality. It is even supposed that Granville was the motivation behind the female lead in the James Bond tale Casino Royale. Too bad Christine was killed by an insane ex-sweetheart in London, close to the furthest limit of her vocation. He first female radio administrator and the main British Indian government operative. Indeed, you read right. Nur Inayat Khan was a noteworthy lady. She was employed by the Flourish Obstruction Development in Paris during World War II under the code name Madeleine. The development's chiefs at first addressed whether Khan was equipped for taking care of business. Yet their feelings of trepidation were immediately eased. While numerous different individuals from the obstruction were captured, Khan evaded catch consistently, much of the time migrating and staying in steady correspondence with London. Unfortunately, Khan's long and fruitful profession as a government operative finished when she was uncovered by a neighborhood French woman who found her character. Khan was immediately captured by the Gestapo, who utilized her own records of mystery signals and codes to fool London into sending new specialists. The Gestapo at that point caught these specialists also. Mata Hari was a government agent camouflaged as a colorful Asian artist. Cool, right? She was celebrated for visiting Europe, playing out a progression of strip shows in which she would make up expand anecdotes about her childhood. To certain crowds, she was brought into the world in a concert-created Indian sanctuary. To other people, she was instructed to move by Indian priestesses. Mata Hari's tempting nature and riotous character gave her the ideal cover for surveillance. Hence, at the flare-up of World War I, she turned into a courier and dispatch for the Allies' opposition. Mata Hari was popular for making dart of high-positioning military authorities from nations, purportedly persuading them to uncover insights concerning weapons and strikes. She would transfer these subtleties to the resistance, bringing about the passings of thousands of individuals. In any case, a few people have hypothesized in the 21st century that her viability as a covert agent was exaggerated. Or then again that she might not have been a covert operative at all. During her lifetime, Mata Hari was likewise associated with being a twofold specialist. Yet, before her status could be uncovered, she was found by the Allies and condemned to death. She was slaughtered by a French terminating crew outside Paris in 1917, a sensational finish to an emotional vow. Virginia Hall, an American government agent with the British Special Operations Executive, was unbelievably intense. She likewise worked for the American Office of Strategic Services during World War II and later for the CIA. While on a chasing trip in Turkey, Hall lost her leg to a weapon mishap. After her leg was removed, she named its wooden substitution Cuthbert. Throughout her vocation, she drove organizations of specialists in different assignments, saved detainees of war, and selected many covert operatives to neutralize the Nazis, who alluded to her as the limping woman, utilizing her mind to stay one stride in front of the Nazis consistently. Hall fin as a goading barrier to a large number of their operations. 6. Hall turned into the main non-military personnel lady to get the Distinguished Service Cross. Nancy Wake was not your normal columnist. After an adolescence in neediness, generally in Australia, she functioned as a writer and afterward rose to turn into an entertainer in high society France by wedding a well-off French industrialist. Wake saw the decimation and misuse brought about by the Nazis firsthand, and she yearned to take care of it. She joined the French resistance toward the start of World War II, rapidly turning into a champion of the development. Her victories included setting up correspondence between the British military and the French resistance, sparing Ally lives by subtly accompanying them through France to Spain, and gathering and putting away weapons for the development of the Allies. She was frequently credited with executing German covert operatives, and it is even supposed that Wake once murdered a German warrior with her exposed hands. These trying accomplishments picked up her the moniker the White Mouse. For attempt as they may, The Nazis would never get their hands on her. 3 words: crazy. Russian spy Anna Chapman is one of the more renowned current covert operatives. Some portion of a covert agent ring dedicated to Russia. She went through years in the United States while endeavoring to gather data of any sort that may be valuable to the Russian government. She was famously for endeavoring to lure NSA informant Edward Snowden with an end goal to save him in Russia for a dress. Chapman planned to wed him in Russia. American inside fact from his cerebrum. Serious, right? But get this, Chapman was likewise a celebrated model. She would regularly utilize her status to learn clandestine data and access government privilege insight. She was at last captured in New York in 2010. 8. A model who is likewise a covert operative. Covert agent who is likewise a model. Appears genuine. Josephine, only straight up cool. Generally renowned for being both an artist and an artist, she turned out to be uncontrollably mainstream during the 1920s. Bread Cook was into everything fascinating, performing melodies, moves, and even comedic dramas wearing only a plume skirt. She immediately got one of Europe's generally in the end in any event going on Broadway. However, the vast majority don't realize that Baker was likewise a spy. 9. She worked French resistance during World War II, carrying messages in her music and in some cases even in her clothing. For her work, Baker got French military distinctions. Ana Montes, a well-known covert agent for the Cuban government, started working for the U.S. with the Defense Intelligence Agency in 1985. She was frequently alluded to as a specialist on everything Cuba, as she straightforwardly couldn't help contradicting U.S. international strategy. It was not well before Cuban authorities contacted Montes and convinced her to accomplish some work for them. She was the ideal lady for the work. In addition to the fact that Montes had admittance to government mysteries, explicitly the Afghanistan intrusion, she likewise had a photographic memory. This made it simple for her to retain reports and scrambled documents and present them to her controllers later, when her partners developed dubious. Montes consented to take a polygraph test to demonstrate her devotion to the U.S. She passed. She would continue turning out secretly for the Cuban government for a couple of more years until the FBI had the option to develop a significant argument against her. In 2002, she conceded to spying and got a 25-year jail sentence.